I've just disembarked a cruise on one of the most technologically advanced cruise ships to call Australia home. But was it all smooth sailing? Sit back and enjoy because this is going to be a long one. I'm Adrian, the Cruise and Travel Guy. I produce cruise-related content every week on YouTube, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date. If you've been following my channel for some time, you'll know that I've been patiently waiting to properly experience and test out Princess Cruises' Medallion technology. My one-night cruise on Coral Princess last year was simply not enough time to truly test out the technology, so with only 1 week's notice, I booked an 11-night cruise on board Majestic Princess. Majestic Princess is one of the newest ships in the Princess fleet. Launched in 2017, she is the third of 6 Royal Class ships and has a capacity of around 3,500 passengers. At 144,000 gross tons, she is a large ship, but as you'll see in this review, her interior design helps to make her feel somewhat smaller than her size might suggest. My 11-night cruise saw Majestic Princess sail from Sydney round trip, stopping in Brisbane, Airlie Beach, Yorkeys Knob, yes that's the actual name, and Port Douglas. Plus there was a scenic sail-by of Willis Island, an Australian external territory which enabled Princess to sell duty-free goods on board. Checking in at the overseas passenger terminal was simple enough. As an elite member of Captain's Circle, I was able to enjoy priority embarkation, but when we arrived at the terminal at around 1:30, there really wasn't much of a queue. Once inside, it was just a matter of having our documents checked by the efficient and friendly port staff, and our medallions were handed over to us. In the US, Princess actually send their medallions out to booked passengers before the cruise, which helps speed things up at the terminal. Princess has promised that Australians will also get this at some point in the future, but as of now we are still waiting. Nevertheless, boarding was painless, and the first thing passengers see once on board is the stunning Piazza. This expansive 3-level space is the literal heart of Majestic Princess, and is where you'll undoubtedly spend a lot of time when you're on board. Boarding day is always a bit of a hectic rush, and I really prefer to avoid the chaos of first day lunch in the buffet. My suggestion is to take advantage of boarding day lunch in the main dining room, but by the time we got situated, I realized we had missed the lunchtime window. I quickly remembered one of my favorite things about Majestic Princess though, and that is Alfredo's. Alfredo's is an a la carte pizzeria located in the Piazza. Open from 11 AM until 11 PM daily, the restaurant truly offers the best pizza at sea. I'm not even just saying that, it was actually voted the best pizza at sea by USA Today. If the delicious pizza alone isn't enough to sway you, you should know that it's also complimentary. I really enjoyed the warm ambience and efficient service, and the wait staff are happy to customize toppings to your liking. My one criticism of the venue, and really the Piazza actually, is the volume of the music from the lower level. I really enjoy a band, and live music is a brilliant addition to the ship's entertainment offering, but the volume level made it difficult to chat at our table, even in the restaurant. I'm lucky enough to call Sydney home, and despite sailing from here 10 times in the last 12 months or thereabouts, I still get goosebumps every time we set sail. After our picturesque sail away, we went down to dinner at one of the specialty restaurants. Harmony is a unique addition to the Princess fleet, appearing only on board Majestic, and it really is a sign of her origins as a ship first designed to sail year-round from China. It occupies the space normally reserved for Sabatini's restaurant on the other Royal Class ships, and I have a feeling it's only a matter of time before we see it replaced by its Italian counterpart. Complimentary specialty dining on the first night is a perk for guests staying in one of the ship's suites. We were sailing with my parents who had booked a penthouse suite, so we decided to join them for what was a sensational dinner. Everything was exceptionally delicious, and being the first night on board meant the restaurant was fairly quiet. It provided a relaxing place to let that cruise feeling sink in. I'll have an in-depth Majestic Princess dining review on my channel soon. Early on day 2, I took advantage of our day at sea to film most of my ship tour. Later in the morning, we went to the Lido Marketplace buffet for breakfast, and I was quickly reminded of why I tend to avoid buffets during peak times. It was around 8:45 AM, and as you would expect, it was beyond busy. There was not one table free indoors, but we did manage to find one aft of the buffet at the Wakeview bar. While Michael went inside to fetch some food, I decided it was the perfect time to avoid those queues, take advantage of the Medallion, and place an order for coffee. The coin-sized token replaces the classic cruise card, but it does so much more. Apart from doubling as your room key, it also provides location tracking services for the ship's servers, meaning that you can use the accompanying smartphone app to order food and drinks to your exact location without the hassle of finding a bar or waiter. In theory, this is an awesome perk of the service, but on that first morning at sea, it had more than a few issues. Using the app to place my order took only a minute, and when Michael returned, I left my medallion on the table in anticipation of the delivery and ventured into the buffet to find some breakfast. When I returned to the table, I checked the order status using the Medallion app and could see that it was still in the preparation stage. By the time we finished our breakfast, our coffee still had not appeared, and although we had no place to be and were enjoying the view from the Wakeview bar, I decided around the 70-minute mark that we pretty much weren't going to get our coffee. Unfortunately, there's no way to cancel an order once it's progressed to the preparation stage, so we left and went to the International Cafe in the Piazza to order coffee in person instead. My first Medallion experience left me feeling more than a little annoyed. It seemed that the main benefit, being the convenience of what Princess calls Ocean Now delivery, was quite literally unable to be delivered. Thankfully though, it did seem like this was more of an isolated incident and things did get better as the cruise continued. I will also have an in-depth Medallion class review on my channel very soon. Sea days on any cruise are the perfect opportunity to explore a ship and become familiar with the layout and facilities. When I sailed on Majestic for the first time in late 2019, I admit that I came away with a preference for the smaller, older, Grand Class ships. Maybe it was because Majestic was new to me or because I do prefer smaller ships, but either way, I promised myself that this time I would look at her through completely fresh eyes, and I can honestly say that I did that. One of the things I loved about Majestic was the Piazza. While the grand space is only 3 levels, it's punctuated by the stunning twin spiral staircases. It's full of warmth and elegance, with its marble finishes and intricate details coming together to create something traditional yet contemporary and very princess. From a practical standpoint, the Piazza also provides access to a multitude of bars, lounges and restaurants, and it was the ship's main indoor entertainment hub. Whether it was the International Cafe, Vines, Bar Piazza, Good Spirits, Ocean Terrace or Bistro sur la Mer, there was always somewhere to situate yourself and enjoy the elegance and luxury of the space. Actually, the Piazza somehow made Majestic feel smaller than she is, not in a bad way, but in the sense that as a heart, it felt like something you would find on a smaller ship. Again though, my only criticism of the area is the volume of some of the music and entertainment events held on the lowest level. The sound was really cranked up, and it could become grating after a while, especially if you were there simply to enjoy a drink and conversation with other passengers. On the positive side though, the noise at one point literally drove me out of the area, and because of that I discovered what became my favorite indoor lounge, the Double Down Bar. Occupying what would normally function as the VIP casino area, the bar cum lounge was a relaxing venue that really ticked my boxes. Comfy furnishings, ocean views, amazing crew and bar staff, and the musical stylings at a perfect background level of musician Craig Bowen. The Crown Bar was another venue that offered a reprieve from the sometimes excessive activity and noise in the Piazza. Located aft on Deck 7, the bar occupies the entrance space to the highly regarded Princess specialty restaurant Crown Grill. We dined there one night on our cruise, and if you enjoy steaks and delicious hearty sides, I recommend making a booking. The amount of food on offer is borderline ridiculous, so make sure you arrive hungry. On our cruise, the cost was around $50 Australian per adult. Many reviews online comment on Majestic being difficult to navigate. I found this to be slightly true, but it took me a couple of days and I had my bearings. Unfortunately, as on many new build ships though, you won't find a traditional wraparound promenade deck on board Majestic Princess or any of the Royal class ships. Princess is well known for breaking up its longer itineraries into shorter segments. Our 11-night Queensland cruise was also a 3-night Sydney to Brisbane cruise and a 10-night Brisbane round-trip cruise. Around 600 passengers disembarked in Brisbane, with roughly the same number boarding for their 10-night voyage. Annoyingly, when we arrived in the Queensland capital, there were announcements related to disembarkation made across the PA system, including inside cabins, at around 7 a.m. For the more than 2,500 passengers remaining on board, this was a bit of a rude and useless wake-up call. Thankfully, that didn't happen again during our cruise. When the first of the Royal Class ships debuted in 2013, one of the most notable differences to its Grand Class predecessors was the absence of the aft pool. This swimming pool was a defining feature on the older ships, and its removal was widely panned by Princess loyalists. Although the final 3 Royal Class ships to enter service with Princess rectified this problem by adding an infinity-style wake-view pool to the Lido deck, Majestic Princess continues without one. The Lido deck is made up of a fairly large and deep lap pool. Plus, there's a raised multi-purpose platform that's used for the ship's exciting fountain shows and a smaller circular plunge pool. The water fountain show, by the way, was definitely a highlight. It was put on at least twice on our cruise, so I recommend checking the schedule to make sure you don't miss out. It's not quite the fountains of Bellagio, but the jets of water are paired with music and lighting to make it an unmissable and very fun experience. One deck up, Majestic has another unique inclusion, the indoor pool space known as the Hollywood Pool Club. On her sister ships, this is an open-air area known as the Retreat. Likewise, Majestic forgoes the paid access adults-only space called the Sanctuary, and replaces this with the Hollywood Conservatory, a somewhat strange but beautifully furnished and decorated area that includes musical instruments and, for some reason, indoor cabanas. The Hollywood Conservatory is free to access, but on our cruise it was also used as the nightly Platinum and Elite Captain Circle event, and so it was restricted to those members at that time each day. Movies Under the Stars is a notable Princess feature, having debuted on Caribbean Princess back in 2004. The giant screen dominates the pool deck, with blockbuster movies, concerts and other events screened throughout each cruise. By night, the sun lounges are transformed into seating fit for a cinema, with comfy toppers, built-in pillows and blankets. There's popcorn, a bar of course, plus complimentary poolside dining venues, and the buffet are all close at hand. Movies Under the Stars was always well attended and made for a perfect nighttime alternative for those guests looking for a more casual evening on board. My only gripe with Movies Under the Stars is that it really isn't Movies Under the Stars. Not if, like me, you imagine the stars are not out during the day. In addition to nighttime, movies are shown during the day, and frankly, I found it annoying. I wasn't alone. I spoke to a number of people that felt the same way. Whilst I appreciate that everyone enjoys different things on a cruise, in my opinion, a movie scene with the blasting sounds of machine gun fire detracted somewhat from enjoying the pool deck on a sunny day at sea. Perhaps it was more noticeable on Majestic because there was no other outdoor pool space to retreat to, but what's wrong with a bit of background music during the day? Let people read a book or enjoy some conversation or have a peaceful pool session without having to yell over the sounds of Jurassic Park. Let's keep the movies to the nighttime, or maybe Princess can invest in headphones and offer those for people that want to watch the movies during the day, similar to those used for silent discos. Like other major cruise lines, Princess ships have gone on a major growth spurt recently, with the Majestic Princess roughly double the size of the much loved and now departed Sun class ships. The increase in size has both positive and negative impacts on the cruise experience, and one of those downsides is connected to the number of people on board. Whilst it's not something that you'll regularly notice, especially after the first day or so when people find their spot on board, there is one time where you just can't avoid the stark reality of cruising with 3,500 other people. That happens to be when the ship has to anchor and use its tenders to transfer guests ashore. Our Queensland cruise itinerary included 4 ports of call, 3 of which would see Majestic Princess drop its anchor. In all 3 ports, there was a fair distance between the ship and the shore, which led to lengthy transfer times. This was especially true in Airlie Beach, where the journey took around 30 minutes each way. Logistically, moving 3,500 people takes time, and it's where large cruise ships suffer compared to their smaller counterparts. This became especially obvious on the return trip. After a spectacular day of jet skiing in the Whitsundays, we made our way back to the port and arrived at around 2 p.m, well before the last scheduled tender at 3:30. At the same time, coach after coach continued to arrive at the port as the ship's tours concluded, leading to a surge of passengers arriving at the same time. The tender queue was already snaking outside of the port building when we got there, and as more and more coaches arrived, it continued to grow and get longer. It was a baking hot day, and although the ship's crew came around with cups of ice water, it was little comfort to those that had to stand in direct sun. For context, I joined the tender queue at 2 p.m. and walked into my stateroom at 3:44 p.m. This is one of the main and most notable negatives to large ship cruising. Although it's fairly easy to find your own space on board thanks to their larger size, when it comes to things like tendering or even joining certain onboard events, you just can't get away from the sheer number of passengers that are on board with you. If I'm sailing on a larger cruise ship, I do tend to avoid itineraries that include a lot of tender ports as a general rule. The captain did announce an apology over the PA system, saying that the ship would use more local boats and catamarans to help transfer guests more quickly at our next port of call, Yorkeys Knob. The almost 2-hour return trip though did present an opportunity for the Medallion to redeem itself. As we sat on the tender's upper level waiting to disembark and board the ship, we were able to connect to the Wi-Fi and place an order for a couple of cocktails. These were set to be delivered to our room, and by the time we disembarked the tender and got to our room, it was only a matter of 2 minutes before we heard a knock on the door, and there they were. Deliciously refreshing Aperol Spritz, which after that ordeal was just what the doctor ordered. It really highlighted the beauty of the Medallion. Cairns is a city located in tropical far north Queensland, and whilst it has modern cruise ship berthing facilities located right in the centre of town, in another check against large cruise ships, Majestic Princess is too long to dock there. Because of her size, Majestic Princess had to anchor at Yorkeys Knob and tender guests ashore. I spent time in both Cairns and Port Douglas only a year ago, and after the previous day's delays, I decided it was simply easier to stay on board and enjoy the ship's facilities. I think I made the right choice, as a couple I met later in the swimming pool told me that they had gone ashore and encountered delays again. Maybe this could be a water shuttle option in future. Although Majestic wasn't scheduled to arrive in our next port of call, Port Douglas, until the next day, the distance between ports was so short that it only took her a couple of hours to sail there. Majestic anchored off the coast of Port Douglas just after 9 p.m, and then the ship's Lido deck turned into Party Central. The ship's singers and dancers came together for a spectacular deck party called Hot Latin Nights. They performed their choreographed show to a packed deck of spectators, and it was truly sensational. I can only imagine how fantastic Majestic Princess would have looked from shore. There was only the one deck party held during our cruise, but it was a lot of fun. Once the show ended, passengers were invited up to the fountain platform to dance the night away while music continued to play. In terms of entertainment, Princess offered a lot of variety. Live music was definitely a highlight, with musicians and singers performing across the ship both during the day and evening. There were also shows, games, quizzes, trivia, and bingo, all held throughout the cruise. There were at least 2 scheduling issues though, with trivia scheduled on port days that the entertainment staff seemed to know nothing about. The Princess Theatre is where main events and production shows are held. There were usually 2 sittings, one around 7:30 and another around 2 hours later. For a ship of her size, the Princess Theatre was a lot smaller than I had anticipated, especially compared to the Quantum class ships from Royal Caribbean. It's clear the designers had to squeeze a certain number of seats into the space, as it is so compact and tight that you're essentially touching shoulders with your seat neighbour, whether you want to or not. Ultimately though, it didn't detract from the amazing shows, and one of those was Fantastic Journey. The production quite literally saw the cast taking us on a fantastic journey, with singing, music, and stunning visuals, including the use of drones, which I had never seen in a show before. I really loved every minute of that show, and I recommend highly that you watch it if you ever have the chance. Majestic Princess offers complimentary food 24/7, so you'll truly struggle to not find something you like while you're on board. I mostly took advantage of the included dining venues, and I especially enjoyed the casual poolside options. I dined in the marketplace buffet 2 or 3 times throughout the cruise and found there was a good variety of tasty food options, with varying cultural themes that changed throughout the voyage. One of my criticisms of the space though has to do with its layout. Majestic and other Royal class ships have an expansive buffet, with food stations that crisscross from port to starboard. It's a little maze-like, and although you do get used to it, I I found it was harder to navigate and to even remember where you had been. Ultimately, I think Royal Caribbean have a much better buffet layout, especially in their comparably sized Quantum class ships. Most mornings, I would use the Medallion app to order a bacon and egg muffin and a double espresso, both of which were delivered directly to the room. For lunch, I would usually grab something from the noodle or burger bar, or head to Alfredo's for one of their sensational pizzas. I enjoyed dinner in the main dining room on a number of nights throughout the cruise and really liked the intimate setting of the 3 smaller format dining rooms. The food was fairly good too, and of course some options were better than others, but on a ship where complimentary dining options are available 24/7, including the always open international cafe, I would find it hard to justify complaining about the food. One complaint though that was also echoed by other passengers was about the coffee. It really wasn't good. Princess offers a 3-tier fare structure on all of its cruises: Standard, Plus, and Premier. Standard includes everything you've come to expect from a cruise holiday, including accommodation, all main meals, and entertainment. Plus increases the value proposition. For $65 per day extra, you receive the Plus drinks package covering beverages up to $22, unlimited Wi-Fi, 2 fitness classes per cruise, and 2 premium desserts per day. Premier goes a step further, and for $95 per day extra, you receive 2 free specialty dining reservations, the Premier drinks package covering beverages up to $30, Wi-Fi for 4 devices, entry into Princess Prizes, which is an onboard lottery, unlimited premium desserts and fitness classes, which probably go hand in hand, and reserved seating in the theatre for production shows. I chose Princess Plus as it was the best value for me. I really enjoyed sampling the cocktail menu every day, plus I enjoyed getting as much bottled water as I liked, and the unlimited, albeit rather slow, internet. For me, it's the value sweet spot on Princess cruises. Ultimately, I had a wonderful cruise holiday on board Majestic Princess. 11 nights gave me an opportunity to really get to know the ship and to fully utilize and test the Medallion class experience. The delays in tendering aside, I really came away with no major complaints. I ended the cruise having developed a fondness for Princess's Royal class ships. I love the Piazza area, the huge range of complimentary dining options, the convenience of the Medallion, as well as the simplicity and inclusions of the Princess Plus fare tier. Plus, all of the crew that I encountered on board were incredibly friendly, and you could tell that they genuinely enjoyed engaging with passengers. After all, a ship is really about the people that are on it, and Majestic Princess is definitely one of the good ones. Stay tuned for more Majestic Princess content coming soon, including a ship tour, cabin tours, dining review, and more. Let me know in the comments as well, what is your favorite thing about Majestic Princess? If you haven't sailed on her, what would you most be looking forward to? If you're looking to book a cruise on Majestic Princess or any other ship, you can head to my website, thecruiseandtravelguide.com.au, and you can give me a follow on Facebook and Instagram at The Cruise and Travel Guide. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Which does help to speed things up at the terminal. Princess have promised this function there, but it has been promised, so we'll wait and see how long that takes. That's not correct. Not in a bad way, but in the literal sense that actually the PR, not in a bad way, but in the sense that as a heart, you would find, let people read a book or it just, what? Like other major cruise lines, Princess Cruises have and continue to grow and grow as more and more coaches can